Hello everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff, and welcome back also to Noob Tries Watercolour. I have been following along in this magazine which has tips and tricks for different mediums if you are a beginner, and in the last video, which I will link in the card, we tried out some of the techniques associated with watercolour just to see if we could get a feel for what was going on. So for this video the idea was to produce a finished article using watercolour. Now I had two options. In the magazine there was a simple demonstration that used 3 colours and it was to make a pretty tulip. Now the idea behind that was that you only needed 3 types of paint, and that was going to be something like your finished article. Now having such a lovely set of paints as I had, and I decided that that was just not acceptable at all, and I wanted to go the whole hog and chuck myself in and try and paint an actual picture. What was I thinking? So needless to say, the tulip was done as a practice and it turned out yeah, okay, it looks like a tulip. So for this video we are in fact doing a full-blown watercolour landscape. Why not just chuck me right in at the deep end, because that's where I'll sink or swim. I hope you enjoy this, guys. It was absolutely epic, and I apologise in advance for the amount of complaining and moaning I do throughout this entire video about how much I hate what I'm doing. Anyway, I'm just going to gather everything together and we can get going. So I've had to make a few augmentations to the requirements as set out in our step-by-step tutorial. One of the things that I've found practicing over the last couple of days is that the paper that I used initially, which you guys saw in the last video, was very, very cheap watercolour paper. I stepped up to a slightly more expensive paper, which was the Faber-Castell watercolour pad, and I found I was getting on a little bit better. For the purposes of this picture, the recommended size was 8 by 11 inches, which is almost A4 size. I do not have that, but I do have this, which is the Strathmore 400 series watercolour paper, which is 7 by 10. I've never ever painted on this paper before and I have no idea how it's going to affect what we're going to do, but hey, that's half the fun, is it not? Is it not? So in addition to that, the other items and materials that I have is a bog standard HB pencil, and that is to do the first step of the watercolour, which for me is obviously the easiest step and probably the only bit that's going to go okay. Some paper towels, but after chatting to you guys in the comments on the last video, I have also got some rags as well to wipe my brushes on. I also have my 2 pots of water, one for cleaning my brush and one for mixing paint with my little pipette in it. I have my Gansai Tambi watercolours and a selection of brushes. There's quite a large selection of brushes that are supposed to be used in this tutorial, and I don't have all of them, so I've just picked the ones that are closest to what is required, a bit like I did with the paper. I've also got a couple of little mixing palettes here to get my colours right, and that is us. We are ready to go. So step number 1 is to draw the outline. It does say as well though that you can trace it, which is nice as well if you're not particularly confident in your drawing, but I think the thing to remember with doing stuff like this is it is just a rough outline. It doesn't have to be a perfect drawing. So anyway, I'm just going to get going here and kind of copy the picture here. One of the things I have to say is, see if I'm copying something like this, I do find it really difficult to talk and draw at the same time. It's different when something's coming out your head, but when you're copying something exactly, it's kind of weird. It's quite funny because although I have obviously had a look through the, you know, the step-by-step tutorial for this, I haven't looked at it in any great depth, and I actually, these shapes that I'm drawing out just now, I actually have no idea what they're supposed to be. I think this must be a tree line because there seems to be a lot of sort of pine shaped trees. I'm not being that careful, to be honest, but I think it's one of these things I've you know, I'm probably a bit cocky with, to be honest, because it's just pencil. I'm like, yeah, it's pencil, it's fine. See, this is fun. I am actually going to take a kneaded eraser to this. With the finished painting, I don't want these lines poking through because watercolour is quite transparent, so it's kind of important that I get this as light as possible. With me finding this incredibly intimidating, and I do think for something that's supposed to be a starter's art project, I think this is quite advanced. It might just be me because I'm not, you know, I'm not good with painting. I'm actually going to break this down into sections, and I'm going to do a bit and then I'm going to walk away for an hour or so and go and do something else and come back in order to get through this. So this is probably going to be filmed over the space of about 3 days. I say it to new colourists all the time with you know, very detailed colouring pages. Just look at one corner and just work on that tiny little bit and worry about the rest later. That's basically what I am going to do with this picture. What we're going to do first is the wash for the sky. Now the colour that they are using here is French ultramarine blue, which is very similar to this sort of sky blue colour. It's also going to be used for the very faintest, like the background mountains. So I'm going to mix 2 dilutions of this essentially. So I want one for my mountains, which is going to be this one. This other one here I'm going to use for the sky, so I'm going to dilute it slightly more. When we're doing the sky, the first step is to put a layer of water onto this background. I'm going to use this flat brush. This is a proper watercolour brush and it's a number 8 short flat. And then when I actually come to do the wash, I'm going to use this number 8 round brush. I seem to get on quite well with this before, so I'm going to give it a shot with that. Down to the mountain line. So now I've to put this wash in, but I've to leave spaces, which is going to denote some clouds. So I'm just going to sort of start at the sides here. Again, I kind of struggle with this. It's like, what shape are clouds? I don't know if I left enough white space for clouds here, but does that look cloudy to you? And the next step, it says, is to crumple up a piece of tissue and press into the sky to lift out cloud shapes, keeping them irregular. I think we've kind of nailed that already, the irregular bit. I don't really know what brush to use, so I have a slightly pointy one here. So maybe we'll try this. It just says it's a number 3. I don't know what that means. I think that maybe these are too dark. I don't think this is diluted enough. I'm gonna try and lift some of this colour just to make it a bit less vibrant. See, this is me. I'm only like 2 minutes in and I'm trying to fix mistakes, and they don't, in these tutorials, they do not teach you how to fix mistakes. That looks better. Can you see the outline though on the top of that bit that I've just done, this part here? I need to try and soften that and get rid of it. Okay, I'll go with that. I'm slightly happier with that. Yeah, it's better. Now that this is dry, I am quite happy with my clouds. I am not so happy with my hills, but never mind. The next step, we need to add some greenery. So again, kind of like what I did with this, I'm going to mix 2 different strengths of this green colour. So we're kind of doing what we did before. I am going to cover the areas that are meant to be green with water first of all. Figure out where the hell I'm going. So this part here. So now I'm shedding hairs. I've splashed up here. This is why I don't paint. Thankfully it's in the cloud so you can't really see it. I'm kind of scared because this is kind of wet. Alright, okay, so we stop there. And then I'm pretty much just gonna... I can't tell what's wet and dry anymore, so I'm just, yeah. I'm actually just purely guessing at that top section. And I am also going to run out of paint. Don't you just love it when that happens? Oh God. Right, what if I lift some of that, plonk it in there, and then chuck some more water in with it? Will that work? Oh no, it's far too dark. We can just blend it in, everything will be fine. It's a slightly different shade, but that's okay because the next step is to darken down around the outside, which we have to do while this is still wet, so this might actually work in our favour. That is far too dark. I don't think they meant that dark, but okay. I was supposed to leave a kind of like white bit here. Yeah, well, I can do that. We can do that by lifting the paint off. We've done this before, and I can still see my pencil lines, so that's okay. Yeah. Well, if there's one lesson to come out of today and nothing else, is that I have learned how to lift paint. There isn't a photograph of the painting at every stage. It does, it's like every third or fourth stage, so you don't really know entirely what you're doing until you sort of, you know, guess it a little bit. And when you're trying to learn a skill and gauge things like that at the same time, it's not the most pleasant of experiences, to be perfectly honest. It's making me slightly uncomfortable, and I'm just not, do you know that way, it's one of those ones, I'm just not sure that I'm doing it right. And again, look at this paint, is far too dark here. It looks like I've put a bush in the foreground. That's not meant to happen either. Let's just smoosh this in a bit. Okay, so this did not turn out the way I wanted it to at all. This is all supposed to be really soft round here, and you can see it kind of worked here, but it did not work here at all. Okay, to be fair, I left that bit in deliberately. It's kind of gone okay up here as well, but again, so yeah, not so good. Right, I'm a bit nervous now because we're moving on to the mountains. Now, according to this, I need to make up a mix of cobalt blue and Windsor blue. Now, apparently Windsor blue is actually green and not blue, so that complicates things slightly. Now, when somebody says to me a milky mix, I automatically think of adding white to it, so I don't really know if that was the intention. I have no idea because it's not explained in any more depth than that. So for someone like me, that's not enough information. I am a very precise person, and I expect to be given instructions down to the nth degree, and if I'm not, I tend to have questions. The colour we're referring to is this lighter colour here. It's maybe a little bit bluier, but that's okay, surely. Right, so apparently we've to do one hill at a time. So I'm going to do the left hand hill first, just because that's what I've been told to do. Now, I have to use a certain brush. I have to use my number 6 round, which is this one here. And it's kind of crispy. Is it supposed to be crispy like that? Oh, this feels quite nice. So I'm going to use this paler colour that we've already established, and I'm just going to like wang this over the entire thing. I'm still not understanding what part of this is relaxing. I'm really not, and I'm really sorry to anybody who enjoys watercolour painting. I do not mean to offend, but this is stressful. This is like, and because you're like worried that it's the paper's going to soak up the water, and then nothing's going to go down properly, and no, God. As you can see, it blends softly into the green valley completed in the earlier step. No, it doesn't. No, it freaking doesn't. Kind of scared, not gonna lie. So we want this like down here. Oh no, oh no. And then down here. So this is gonna come in like here. I am not enjoying the unpredictability of this, like of the paint. Like, I'm really just not enjoying this at all. Now, apparently, this is all supposed to like just, like, honestly, this is so stressful. Like, ooh, look at me, I'm a mountain. And then through here as well, like, ooh, look at me, I'm a hill. Right, so now that we've done that, I don't like the way it's bled into the paper either. That doesn't look like a mountain at all. It just looks like someone's made a mess with some dark coloured paint. This is almost my soaking into my foothills that's made a really gentle gradient. More water, smoosh it in. Stroke along the ridge to give it a lovely sunlight lit highlight. Really? Stroke along the ridge where here? It doesn't tell me where. It doesn't show you in the picture, and I have just smudged that dark paint into my fricking... I ain't flicking anything with anything. I think it means like along here. Ah, right, okay. Come on. I think there should be more dark. I'm just making an executive decision here that this darker colour needs some water in it. the dark green colour is definitely, you know, there's this big patch in the middle when this is supposed to be the dark side of the hill. I would imagine there would be more of the darker colour in it. Okay, trying to follow the line a little bit here, overlapping down here as well. We're going in with this here, and I am covering this entire area. When I am drawing, or sometimes when I am colouring, I often have Mozart on in the background, and when I fly, or you know, when I'm travelling, and I have my sketchbook, I've always got Mozart on in my, you know, in my earphones. So I don't know if that's of any relevance at all, but maybe I might find this a little bit less stressful if I had some classical music on. What was this brush for? What was I using this one for? Number 8. I don't know. Looks like a melted slush puppy. Yeah, so this is coming right down here. Hers is so much darker. Like, I might have to just darken this up now. I'm gonna be brave. That's really wet. I think it's too wet. Like the background, I mean, here is too wet. I'm trying not to create like really obvious, you know, lines like, oh, this has been made by a paintbrush, and it is just not that easy. Like, I hate how this is all bleeding out. I'm really, really not enjoying this at all. Oh, so stressful. Like, actually, that's not lifting it because it's far too dark. Like, see, now that's too dry. It's too dry, it's gone dry. I don't want to play this game anymore. That just looks like a big splodgy line right in the middle of the freaking... Oh, this has made a mess of it, and it's too blue. On the plus side, I was going to draw some of this out and just make it, you know, a different colour. Give it a bit of definition, because she's done the same as well. Like, the one in behind here is really grey looking, and I'm like, how can it possibly be grey? Because you haven't used any grey, and the colours that you've mixed together do not make grey. I think, actually, I have spent more time taking paint off this paper than I have put it on. Oh lordy. Alright, we are nice and dry again, and I'm ready for another round before I lose the natural light today. This one's a little bit more straightforward. We are going to work on a clump of trees in the middle, which suits me just fine. Make this mix the consistency of thin cream. And apparently I have to use a hint of burnt sienna, which I don't really have. Oh, I've got 46. We can maybe try and add a bit of 46. You shall see 46 in a moment. Let's pop a tiny little bit of that in there and see what happens. Is that too much maybe? Who knows? I want it lighter than this. I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I'm going to put some white in it. So we're going to use this one, and we're going to paint our trees, which I don't know what they're supposed to look like, but we'll pretend that we do. I don't even know like what type of brush strokes or anything I'm supposed to be using here. I'm just kind of like making it up as I go along. I thought this was going to be like all the one, you know, clump of trees. Apparently not. I think this is supposed to be like a kind of like a clearing. You'll see what the way I've drawn the pencil lines in, you'll see it in a moment. I'm finding it kind of weird that actually there isn't, you know, more precise guidance. And again, that's something that I'm just a lot more comfortable with, having like really precise, like you do this in exactly this way. This is all a bit, I was going to say arty farty, but that kind of goes without saying. This is all a bit kind of airy fairy for my liking. It's not really precise enough in terms of guidance for someone who is completely new to painting, let alone, you know, trying to figure out watercolour stuff. I am just going to soldier on here, be brave, pretend I know what I'm doing, give you guys some entertainment, something to laugh at, because I know you all like it. This is what I meant by a clearing. We have to paint in some lines. That is so not dark enough. And I need to fix it quickly because I'm supposed to do this. I'm assuming I'm supposed to do this while it's still wet, and I don't think it's wet. I think most of it's dry by now. So yeah, this is supposed to be shadows that's anchoring your trees into, you know, into the picture so that they look like they have, you know, they're not just like floating about on their own. I'm not entirely convinced about that myself, but okay. Right, now here comes the interesting part. Lay tissue paper across the top third of the entire tree clump and gently wipe your finger across it. Top third, that'll do me. Wipe my finger across it like this. Peel the tissue back to reveal a subtle ghosting effect. This suggests lights streaming through the trees coming from the left-hand side, allowed to dry completely. Well, that did nothing. So I think what we need to do here is do what we've done before. I'm going to take this little flat brush. I am going to dampen it. It's not wet, it's damp. And I am just going to lift some of this paint in each of these dark sections. Take off some of that. I've just realised that you guys actually probably can't really see that. I'll zoom in a bit. Oh look. Man, this is like a Monet from the distance. It looks, you know, the whole thing looks pretty good, and then you zoom in and you're like, oh, that's messy. Look at it, it's just a selection of blobs basically. I kind of like that though. Do they look like trees? No, not really. Light strokes of green across the middle of the grassy foreground to create undulations. Right, I'm just going to use what I've used already. I'm not messing about with any more stuff. My paint work is either too wet or too dry. I don't seem to be able to get anything in the middle. I've just not got the hang of that yet. Which is rubbish, but well, if that doesn't indicate undulations, then I don't know what the freak will. Oops, I didn't mean to go up at the end with that. Alright, so we are ready to move on to some more trees. So once again, I'm mixing my paint first. Now I need a bluey greeny colour. I wonder what happens if I put number 55 in it. It's a really green. It is really green. That's done approximately nothing. These colours are all far too vibrant. I'm going to have to like seriously dull them down. Number 47, let's have a bit of that in there as well. Let's muddy it up a bit. Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Right, let's just squish all of that over there. Can we just... Oh, actually. Let's not be silly about this. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that at all. Oh, I've splattered paint on this. No, why does this keep happening to me? I am a liability, clearly. Can you see that? Can you see that? If you can't, then that's good for me. Let's see if I can just like... Okay, I've got another one too. What have you done? Right, for the love of God, women, be more careful. Right, I am going to use this brush for these trees because I'm going to do them a la Bob Ross style. We're going to make some happy little trees. I know Sandy said that I made a happy little tree last time, but these really are going to be happy little trees. So now we're going to work really quickly. I'm going to get my brush in here and I am going to put in some, oh that's far too much. I'm going to put in some stems like so. And I am going to make me a happy little tree like this. See, now this is fun. This is fun. All the mixing paint colours and trying to do things while they're drying, and that's not fun. There is nothing fun about that. This is fun. Maybe I'm just going to have a little skanky tree there that's not got very many branches on it. I got me some happy little trees. Top left to bottom right. Ah! I get you. Okay, it only worked in like one place, but okay. I think I still get on better if I do. Yeah, look. Look. That's better. Once again, for those of you that do watercolour, you're going to be screaming at me going like, what are you doing? Stop wrecking your painting. Tell you what though, I'm considerably less stressed than I was a couple of hours ago when I started mixing colours and I was doing the washes. I find doing the washes quite difficult, and I think that I kind of like psyched myself up for that, and there was just too much colour mixing going on. And because this is such a big picture, I mean apart from this I've literally done like one other actual picture, so you know I'm probably not going to be particularly skilled, confident and or good at doing this kind of thing on this kind of scale. So you know I think so far I'm doing alright though. I might be wrong, you guys might think otherwise. As last time, like I really appreciated all your feedback and all your painterly tips in the comments section. I would love to hear if you think I have actually done a half decent job with this when it's finished, or whether you think I should just stick to pencils because I'd best not give up my day job. All input and comments gratefully received. I've just realised as well I've got the other side to do, and I have already I've already used up the pale coloured paint for this side, so I'm going to have two-tone trees. I can't even remember what colours I used to do it. I started off with a cobalt, which I sucked up. This is not good. I have mixed like every single shade of green. Oh, that's quite close though. Right, I'm going to go with this because it's quite close. Yeah, I've mixed like every shade of green apart from the one that I actually need. This is something that I'm noticing, is that these slightly better quality brushes, and they are only slightly better quality, they hold so much more paint than the cheap ones I've been using. So I'm kind of like, I keep picking up some paint and I'm like, whoa, that's way too much paint. I actually can't believe the amount of inaccuracy you get away with, like literally just like splodging your brush on the paper. It is absolutely outrageous. I'm like, how that is shaped like a tree I will never know, but it looks like a tree. It does look like a tree from a distance. If you look really close, it's just wonky brush strokes. And more to the point, it's my wonky brush strokes. Alright, so we're on the home stretch now. My god, I thought we would never see the end. I've just mixed some white and yellow together, and we're going to start putting some flowers in the foreground. I just realised I've got to wait for this to dry. How very tedious. I'll make this into an orange while I'm waiting. Try and squeeze this in the bottom here so that you can still kind of see what I'm doing. It's orange without being orange, if you know what I mean. It's actually quite a pleasant shade. I see my yellow paint started to kind of sink into the background, but I do notice that on the artists it's the same, and I think that's why you've got to add some of this, you know, just to make it a bit more standy outy. That's not very technical. I'm actually really tempted to use some white gouache on this, or gouache, depending on where you're from, just to make it a bit more interesting, but so that it'll pop out. But I think that's probably cheating. So I am going to summon all my power, and I am going to get this white as thick as I possibly can. I'm trying to get like it into like a paste. No, you can't even, not even a little bit. You really can't see that, right? Okay, I'm cheating. That's it, I'm cheating. Okay, all this is Winsor and Newton Designers gouache, and I use it for highlights and drawings sometimes rather than using something like a gel pen. It is really thick, but that's okay. That's what I need right now. And I am just going to wang some of this on, and you can see that that's helping. Yeah, she's not really, she's just kind of like dotted some of this on. I think it's like I don't think it makes them look any more like flowers, if I'm honest. Using the Zero Round Mix Creamy Permanent Sap Green and Burnt Sienna and paint the stems. I have a zero. I don't even know if you can see that or not. It's so tiny, you can't even see it against the colour of the palm of my hand. I'll show it against my watch face, there you go. It's really small. So I need to be mixing, I am so fed up of mixing paint today. Oh, this little paintbrush is just divine. I like this. I think I found my favourite paintbrush. If I keep the strokes quite light, I should be okay, she says, hopefully. I wish I hadn't made the ones at the top so big. It feels as if it's kind of taken over the picture now, and the stems are getting outrageously long. There we go. Right, so that's actually not looking too bad. I am just going to try and do a bit more with my grass. I think I'm done. I actually think I'm spent. This is the worst part of the whole painting. Oh no. I think I'll put the date on the back. Oh lordy. And there we have it, everyone. I am just going to zoom out. And that is my finished picture. Now, obviously, so that you have some sort of context, I am going to show you, I'm just moving some stuff out of the way, I'm a bit tight for space here. I'm going to show you the reference picture, and I'm also going to show you the artist's picture. So here is the original reference photo next to my design. Now I'd like to show you the artist's finished painting, and this is where you will see I have failed miserably. There you go. There is the artist's finished article, and it's so pretty. And here's mine. What do you think, guys? First proper watercolour painting. I would very much value your opinions, your tips, anything at all that you want to say. Feel free to drop it into the comments. This has been epic. I know I said at the start I'd probably do this in 4 or 5 sessions over the space of a few days. I've spent all day doing this. It's now 7:20 at night, and I started this at approximately 12 o'clock today. So yeah, I can't decide whether or not I'm pleased with myself or whether I'm traumatized, or I really don't know. But I tell you something, I have learned so much today, and most of you know me by now. I love to learn things. So even if I don't decide that watercolour painting is something I'm going to keep up, this has certainly been a learning experience, and it's taught me quite a lot about paintbrushes and mixing paint. And yeah, sometimes I kind of prefer a baptism of fire. That's kind of the way to do it. But there we go. At least I've got something for my efforts, and I can't say that I am bowled over by my skills, but I certainly don't think that that's too shabby at all. Anyway, thanks so much for playing along, as it were, and I'd love to see anybody's efforts if they have followed along with this. You can show me your pictures in any of the social media links, which will be in the end card and also down in the description. I hope you have a great day today, guys, and thank you so much for watching and coming with me on this learning experience. We'll see you soon in the cave. Bye for now.